Hello once again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service. On satellite imagery today, next system here, front slowly moving eastward, really having a hard time with that back edge of the clouds getting past AKwx there today. But anyway, some clearing just to your west out there with some scattered shower activity as well. And precipitation spreading up toward the Pribilof Islands, eastward across the eastern Aleutians here to the Alaska Peninsula, just barely making it there. Then getting some clearing over Bristol Bay here, a few isolated snow showers along and inland over the southwest coast, but nothing very significant. And another band of snow showers right through here from about the Nulato Hills southward into northeast Bristol Bay, and actually more over the Aleutian Range and southern portion of the western Alaska Peninsula, western Alaska Range here, extreme southern areas. We can see another swath of mostly clear skies, southern Cook Inlet northwestward there, all the way into the Kobuk Valley. Look like a little clearing around the Selawik Valley area, then more clouds up there on the north slope on out to the Arctic coast. Some clearing, southern slopes of the eastern Brooks Range into the northern Yukon Flats, and then pretty good cloud shield here of mostly mid and high level clouds over the Tanana Valley into the Copper River Basin. Start picking up some snow showers with this band of cloudiness right through here from the Gulf of Alaska as that gradually moving westward here, and the front embedded down in here somewhere, and another low center right about there developing aloft. And then Panhandle, not too bad in the north. We still have some moisture going on with the remnants of a front or a weak front down in that area. Kind of breezy southeast winds kicking up a little bit down there again, but nothing all that significant. And rolling that ahead again, you can see looks like the back edge of this cloud mass over the Queen Charlotte Islands now, about ready to move into the Dixon entrance area. But rain and snow again, or mostly rain actually, here over the southern Panhandle, much lighter amounts up to the north. And then some of that moisture here into western Prince William Sound, east side of the Kenai Peninsula. Again, not very much at all, mostly dry here for the area from Cordova into Yakutat, and again across the northern Panhandle. And you can see a narrow band right through here. There is some light snow shower activity associated with that. Again, extends up to the northwest there. Kind of dash that in right through here, but drier, isolated snow showers back over the Yukon Delta. Again, very little significance at all. And then some clouds here over the interior. Look like some snow showers developing over the Talkeetna Mountains, or they're just western Prince William Sound northward there, but again, not very much. Some moisture here along the eastern Kenai Peninsula, western Prince William Sound. But to the east of Kodiak, they had some light northwest winds going there today. Temperatures in the upper 30s and dry. Rain over the southern Panhandle association with this front here, and then out to the west, gusty southeast winds in advance of this front with snow, rain and snow, and just plain rain advancing eastward there, spreading northward toward the Pribilof Islands, and then curving back around into the far western Aleutians. And the forecast for tonight, look for those northerly winds, quite gusty this evening for the western Aleutian areas, gradually shifting eastward there. Light winds moving into the Adak-Atka area there. You kind of see a cull in the gradient, so not much, a lot lighter on the winds there, and chance of rain and snow showers. Rain continues there for the eastern Aleutian areas, a wet night coming up there. Winds starting to diminish there as the low center moves in close to the area, but staying dry here over Bristol Bay, and mostly cloudy, variably cloudy along the southwest coast. Still looking for a chance of snow showers here with this trough, very slow moving, quite weak. Mostly, or will be from the western Alaska Range, cutting up across the northern Kuskokwim Valley, on out to the Seward Peninsula, Selawik Valley areas, to the north and east, dry with varying amounts of clouds, but dry conditions, winds light, staying gusty there in the eastern Arctic coast. Those will continue to gust 20 to 35 miles an hour both tonight and through Saturday up there, especially over toward Kaktovik and Barter Island, and maybe even the central coast as well over toward Barrow, and then dropping off a little bit here on the west side, but that offshore flow should make for a more chance of clearing skies there for the western coastal regions. Otherwise, just some clouds in areas all the way down to the Copper River Basin. Just a risk of some shower activity tonight for the North Gulf Coast areas. And same thing for the Panhandle. Doesn't look like much of the way, starting to decrease the precipitation, ending toward tomorrow. Starting to see some clearing, which will transfer into or translate into more clearing for tomorrow. Definitely dry, rain, precipitation free. System dropping off to the southeast. This one way too far to the southwest there. Maybe a risk of a shower for Kodiak Island, and that's about it. Just a slight threat. Should be dry for the Alaska Peninsula. Again, showers will be south of the area, just off the coast. Mostly sunny across southern Alaska. Mostly sunny northward across the eastern interior. And area of snow up here of light snow or flurries over the northwest part of the state, slowly shifting up to the northeast tomorrow. Mostly in this area here along the trough and just to the northeast would be the more continuous area of light snow, otherwise just flurries for the central Arctic coast there. Light winds, northern Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island, northeast 10 to 20 here for the southwest coast. And of course that dry wind should be mostly sunny skies tomorrow. And then chance of snow here. Again, that's going to stay west of the Pribilofs, but some of that will extend down maybe into the eastern Aleutian areas. And kind of unsettled, but not too bad out over the western and central Aleutians. Most of the snow shower activity off to the northwest. That changes Saturday night and Sunday with this next front rolling into the western Aleutians, southwest Bering. Look for a narrow band of gale force winds in advance of that front as it pushes eastward. Definitely rain with it, with the warm front especially spreading in east across Adak and Atka. Won't make Nikolsky until probably Sunday evening, so pretty nice Sunday coming up for the eastern Bering Sea. Much of the interior, only threat of moisture is up there over the northeast interior, and that's just scattered snow showers in this area. Otherwise, partly and mostly sunny everywhere else with lighter winds now on the eastern Arctic coast. Just about wind free here for the North Gulf Coast. Panhandle looks kind of wet there with rain showers or areas of light rain and showers here to the south, maybe mixed with snow farther to the north where amounts will also be lighter. And for the lows tonight, down that way, upper 20s to mid 30s, about sums it up for the Panhandle. 20s south central Alaska, mid 30s North Gulf Coast, right on the coastline. Teens in the central interior, maybe a little below zero up over the northeast with 0 to 5 below there for the Arctic coast, North Slope. Otherwise 30s, lower 30s out over the Aleutians. And for tomorrow's highs, we've got, looks like lower 30s here for the Bristol Bay area, mid 40s the Sitna Valley, upper 30s for the Tanana Valley, and 5 to 10 above for the Arctic coast, and lower 40s for the Panhandle, maybe mid 40s. And then the lows the following morning, lower 40s will be the lows, say, for Sitka. Otherwise, looks like most areas above freezing for the southeast coast. 20s again, southern Alaska, cooling to the teens, mid-teens, or 10 to 15 for the Tanana Valley. A little below zero through the Brooks Range, eastern and central Arctic coast, either side of zero for the lows. High shaping up like this, 5 to 10 above up in that area, approaching 50 for the Susitna Valley, and 40s to 50 in the Panhandle.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
On to flying weather here. We've got areas of IFR up there on the North Slope, right over the Seward Peninsula, and northward there, but not quite reaching Kivalina. But it looks like it into and south of the Selawik Valley area. There's some IFR here, mostly along or west of the Alaska Range, and then off to the northwest, marginal stuff into the central Tanana Valley, but staying west of Fairbanks. VFR, Yukon Flats, and IFR here southwest, kind of out in the middle of nowhere there, southwest of St. Matthew Island, northwest of the Pribilofs. VFR, Adak and Atka tomorrow, otherwise marginal. Then back to VFR for Bristol Bay, pretty good over the Panhandle. Tomorrow afternoon, VFR here all across the southeast coast, North Gulf Coast, Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, except for you can see some marginal VFR in western Prince William Sound at times tomorrow. Otherwise VFR Cook Inlet, good VFR southwest interior, marginal VFR now tomorrow afternoon. Looks like into the Tanana Valley, all the way to the border, back up to the northwest there to the Arctic coast. And not too bad out here to the west, really. That IFR zone kind of retreating back to the northwest. We're left with marginal here for the Pribilofs to the eastern Aleutians. Staying relatively VFR for Adak, definitely for Atka, and looks like VFR for Shimei and Attu. Then for Sunday morning, IFR back in the picture up here over the northwest, North Slope into the Noatak Valley, Kotzebue Sound, and looks like eastward about the Kobuk Valley, and the northern Seward Peninsula. Marginal VFR to the south to the Yukon Delta coast, to the south coast there of Norton Sound. Pretty good St. Lawrence Island, right on down the coastline. Marginal just catching the Perbilofs, marginal in areas here, eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. VFR, southern Alaska, could be some marginal stuff up around the Talkeetnas. I think it'll stay out of the Madanuska Valley. And then good VFR North Gulf Coast on down the Panhandle Dixon entrance, and IFR trying to make an appearance out there to the west. For tomorrow, or for Sunday afternoon, it makes a pretty good jog actually eastward here, coming right into AKwx in the afternoon hours. Zone IFR obviously with the next front, staying VFR out along the coast to about Nunivak Island. Marginal for St. Lawrence Island, patches of marginal, or a patch of marginal VFR up over the central north slope, north of the mountains, and then still kind of marginal here, Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, on up into the Yukon Flats, also for the southern Kotzebue Sound area, inland a little bit along and south of the Selawik Valley. Southern central Panhandle look pretty marginal. Passes Anatuvik VFR becoming marginal, and marginal VFR becoming VFR for Adigan. Otherwise, Lake Clark and Merrill, good VFR tomorrow, rainy VFR. Windy, marginal VFR becoming VFR. Isabel, though, occasionally marginal. And Antasta, occasionally marginal tomorrow. Tanita, though, will be VFR. And Portage, could see some marginal VFR on the eastern entrance. Chilkoot and White, VFR. Marginal VFR possible on the northern entrances. Freezing level, 2,000 feet here. Gulf of Alaska, about Cape Yakataga eastward there, across the northern Panhandle, warming to 4,000 feet over the southern southeast coast. Otherwise, 2,000 feet off the chart out here to the west. The surface, though, up north of the Perbilofs now to near St. Matthew Island. Icing, not a lot to talk about here. If there's any that does occur tomorrow, the shaded areas will be where it happens. Maybe they're east side of Kodiak Island, possibly some light rime icing up here in the northwest, Western Brooks Range, and possibly for the east central Aleutians. Jet stream, basically upper high pressure here over the eastern interior areas. Jet well to the south, barely reaching the far western Aleutians, otherwise staying well to the south there, so not much in the way of storminess up in our area. And 9,000 feet, 3,000 feet, 15 to 20 knots into the Gulf of Alaska and the Panhandle. Pretty light here over the southern interior. Easterlies increased dramatically just off the eastern Arctic coast. You can see here 25 to 40 knots out of the east, and at 3,000 feet, 40 to 50 knots out of the east up there. It's long end, mostly off the coast, otherwise very light through the interior. And 20 to 25 Alaska Peninsula here to the eastern Aleutians, 15 to 20 off the southwest coast, northwest 25 and a narrow band there over the west central Aleutians. Turbulence, maybe some light to isolated moderate chop here. Below 6,000 feet, northeast Copper River Basin into the northern Panhandle. Also out here with the Fox Islands and Amchitka Island, could be a little bumpy. Otherwise, after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Floating hundreds of miles from Earth, astronauts get a unique perspective of our planet. While they might recognize landmarks, space is the only place they can see the very edge of our planet's atmosphere.
From orbit, particularly looking at the horizon, did bring to mind how thin the atmosphere is. It's like an onion skin around this great big ball of the Earth.
This uppermost layer of Earth's atmosphere, the ionosphere, also overlaps with the very beginning of space. It's the job of NASA's new mission, GOLD, the Global Scale Observations of the Limmendisk Instrument, to study this region, a region that isn't just for astronauts to explore, but that affects humans every day down on the ground. For one thing, this layer of the upper atmosphere helps protect us from harmful radiation and energy emanating from the sun. But in our modern society, it does so much more. It affects the smartphone that sits in your pocket and the radio waves that guide our airplanes. The ionosphere is a crucial layer of the atmosphere through which our communications and GPS signals travel. And when this region changes, it impacts those communication signals. Changes can occur above this region from the sun's activity, also known as space weather. Changes can also occur below from Earth's weather, such as hurricanes and wind patterns. GOLD connects the dots between how space weather and Earth's weather shape the upper reaches of the atmosphere. But this region isn't easy to study. The ionosphere spans roughly 60 to 400 miles from Earth's surface, which is too high for aircraft and scientific balloons, and the lower regions are too low to easily study with satellites. What are attainable, however, are the swaths of red and green light shining out from the upper atmosphere. Formed when the sun's rays hit atmospheric molecules, this light, named airglow, comes from green and red bands of glowing gas. Some of the airglow is invisible to our eyes, shining in infrared and ultraviolet light, which can only be seen with scientific instrumentation. Taking advantage of our planet's natural glow is gold. The gold instrument, which is about the size of a mini-fridge, is hitching a ride on a commercial communication satellite, SES-14. The satellite's orbit lies 22,000 miles above Earth, where it can record images in ultraviolet light to monitor changes in airglow across the globe. These images give information on the temperature, density, and composition of particles in the upper atmosphere. Gold collects these observations faster than any mission has ever done before. It captures an image of Earth's entire disk every 30 minutes, allowing scientists to see how the upper atmosphere evolves throughout the day. Gold joins a host of missions studying the very nature of space, around Earth, the Sun, and planets. As NASA ventures farther and farther from home, knowing the nature of space itself is crucial for our journey to understand our solar system and beyond.
There's a new class of chemical compounds impacting the Earth's ozone layer and raising concerns among some scientists. But a new NASA analysis indicates stratospheric ozone could actually be impacted more by climate change and the continued release of already banned chemicals. The Earth's ozone hole is showing signs of recovery, decades after the landmark agreement called the Montreal Protocol that banned many chemical compounds harmful to the ozone layer.
So we know the Montreal Protocol was a huge success. This was signed in the late 1980s when scientists and policymakers from around the world gathered together to try to save the ozone layer.
The chemicals they regulated persist in the atmosphere for many decades. They thin the ozone layer and they create a seasonal hole over Antarctica. They basically take away part of our planet's natural sunscreen, and that increases the risk of skin cancer and damage to plants.
Scientists have projected the ozone hole could disappear almost completely by about 2075, but several factors could delay that recovery.
There are some industrial compounds that are not banned by the Montreal Protocol, but as they enter the atmosphere, they will also hurt the ozone layer.
But the unregulated compounds have a short lifespan in the atmosphere, unlike the chlorofluorocarbons that were originally regulated. So they have a short-lived impact on ozone, and we don't think they'll delay recovery by more than a few years.
We projected by 2050, more than half of the ozone-depleting compounds in the atmosphere will come from long-lived substances banned by the protocol.
Because these compounds stay in the air for such a long time compared to the unregulated, short-lived compounds, they will have a disproportionate and lingering impact on ozone. So any non-compliance with the protocol can have significant consequences.
And the really big uncertainty in ozone layer recovery is climate change. There are many naturally produced ozone-depleting substances that are emitted by the oceans. And as the oceans continue to warm due to climate change, those emissions will increase, and that will further delay ozone recovery.
Scientists want to better understand how climate change will affect ozone recovery.
This is a hard problem. As a scientific community, we need to work on this major issue. We now have a powerful new tool to simulate atmosphere and its interaction with land and ocean to study this issue. And that's what we're going to do.
How can you see the atmosphere? The answer is blowing in the wind. Tiny particles known as aerosols are carried by the air around the globe. This visualization uses data from NASA satellites combined with our knowledge of physics and meteorology to track 3 aerosols: dust, smoke, and sea salt. Sea salt, shown here in blue, is picked up by winds passing over the ocean. As tropical storms and hurricanes form, the salt particles are concentrated into the spiraling shape we all recognize. With their movements, we can follow the formation of Hurricane Irma and see the dust from the Sahara, shown in tan, get washed out of the storm center by the rain. Advances in computing speed allow scientists to include more details of these physical processes in their simulations of how the aerosols interact with the storm systems. The increased resolution of the computer simulation is apparent in fine details like the hurricane bands spiraling counterclockwise. Computer simulations let us see how different processes fit together and evolve as a system. By using mathematical models to represent nature, we can separate the system into component parts and better understand the underlying physics of each. Today's research improves next year's weather forecasting ability. Hurricane Ophelia was very unusual. It headed northeast, pulling in Saharan dust and smoke from wildfires in Portugal, carrying both to Ireland and the UK. This aerosol interaction was very different from other storms of the season. As computing speed continues to increase, scientists will be able to bring more scientific details into the simulations, giving us a deeper understanding of our home planet.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis, not much different from yesterday. Still a little bit of expansion of the sea ice conditions out here due to the prevailing wind direction, colder temperatures, a little bit to the southwest and south, but not too much different. You can still see sea ice free waters there north of St. Lawrence Island and Bristol Bay, ice about gone, and less ice in Cook Inlet with each passing day. And forecast, not much change in these conditions expected through the weekend. And for the coastal water forecast here along the southeast coast, we got north winds at 20 here on the north coast, northeast 20 on down the coastline, light north 15 winds there for Clarence Strait, and then pretty gusty still here, hanging on to those 30 knot sustained winds, gust 45 Stevens Passage, 30 knots out of the north for Lynn Canal. And for Sunday, those come down, but we'll throw some 40 knot gusts in there for northern Lynn Canal, and southeast now, 20 knots, gust 35 for Stevens Passage, so kind of a convergence zone right in here for sure. Southeast 20 for Clarence Strait, south 20 on the south coast, turn southeast to 20 and then drop off to 15, becoming east 15 on the north coast. And for Prince William Sound, we've got northwest 15, more or less there for tomorrow with slight seas, just 2 feet. Northeast 20 for the eastern North Gulf Coast, 25 knots here, so small craft advisories all along the North Gulf Coast with those 9 to 10 foot seas. Northeast at 20, small craft advisories also with 9 foot seas for the Barren Islands. And Cook Inlet, 15 knots. Northern Cook Inlet, 20 knots to the south, all the way down into Kachemak Bay. Outlook for Sunday, north 10, light winds for northern Cook Inlet, 20 knot winds. Southern Inlet, Kachemak Bay, light for the Barrens, northeast at 10. East 10 for the western North Gulf Coast, just 15 knots there for the eastern coast, and Prince William Sound, light winds, slight seas. And for Kodiak Island, north to northeast, 25 knots, about sums it up with 9 to 10 foot seas, 25 knots out of the northeast, 8 foot seas, turn easterly at 25, but seas fall back to about 7 feet there with east winds at 25 foot seas for the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, northeast 24 foot seas for Bristol Bay. And then for Sunday, you got northeast 20 knots blowing across Bristol Bay all the way down the coastline there, the marine areas to Cape Sarachef, and then turn northerly here from Cape Sarachef to northeast from Castle Cape to Sitkinak. And Kodiak Island, northeast to 20. Seas Shelikof Strait 5 feet to 6 feet there on the east side of the island. And for the eastern Aleutians, got easterlies here, especially for Unalaska Island, east 30 knots, 14 foot seas, and they start going northeast to northwest, 25 to 30 here just to the west there. And then central Aleutians westerlies at 20 with 8 to 13 foot seas, and then pick it up to 30 knots, 25 to 30 north-northwest out over the western Aleutians. And then for the outlook for Sunday, lighter conditions here for the Fox Islands, 15-knot winds, varying directions, picking up to about 20 knots from Nikolsky. And then we've got, again, minimum gales here from the central Aleutians all the way out to Shimei and Attu. Southwest coast, northeast 20, coming out of Kuskokwim Bay, becoming east 25 for the Pribilofs, 30 knots out of the east for St. Matthew Island. Otherwise, light and variable up here, St. Lawrence Island, the Bering Strait, Norton Sound. And for Sunday, northeast, east-northeast 20 knots here with the easterly winds all the way down to Nunivak Island at 20 knots. Northeast 15 for the area south of Nunivak Island. Light southeasterlies for the Pribilofs, and small craft advisories continue for St. Matthew Island. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow, 25-knot winds, so brisk wind advisories, entire stretch of the coastline on down to Cape Beaufort, down to Cape Thompson, 20 knots from the east, and then southwest, pretty light there to the south. And for Sunday, northeast 15 here for the Chukchi Sea, pretty light here from Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson. East 15, lighter winds coming up for Sunday here all along the Arctic coast, still hanging on to 20 knots though, but under brisk wind advisory levels. And for tonight again, still wind and blowing snow areas of here over the both the eastern and western Arctic coast, like around Point Lay, for example. That'll continue into tonight and then gradually begin to improve a little bit there, kind of surges of moisture moving from east to west. A trough brings a chance of snow showers right through this area, and barely a risk of showers now along the North Gulf Coast here, a little bit of moisture hanging in there, maybe some light snow showers, Alyeska, Talkeetna Mountains, but nothing significant. Less decreasing moisture for the Panhandle. Could be mostly clear tomorrow. I might be a little optimistic here, not putting any clouds in, but definitely be dry. And southern interior, east side too, best chance of snow up here in the northwest, and some showers out in the Aleutians in the Bering Sea, but a storm rolls in on Sunday. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.